You want to know the moment an avoidant finally feels something, not when you text, not when you chase, not when you beg for clarity. It's when you stop, when you go quiet, when your silence becomes louder than all their noise. That's when the armor cracks, because silence isn't absence. It's presence without permission. It's energy without explanation. It's the moment they realize you're no longer waiting. Most people think silence means defeat, that if you don't explain, they'll just move on. But that's not how it works with avoidance. Avoidants crave distance until distance turns real. They want control until your silence removes it. They thought disappearing first made them powerful. But when you disappear for peace, that's when their system starts to panic. At first, they pretend not to care. They scroll, they distract, they post. But inside, they're checking your name every few hours, wondering why the energy feels different now. Because for the first time, your silence isn't punishment, it's power. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Silence is a source of great strength." And in the world of avoidance, your silence is the mirror they can't look away from. They don't miss your words. They miss the version of themselves they were when you cared. They miss the safety of your understanding, the emotional shield you unknowingly gave them. And when that's gone, they start to feel the one thing they fear most: vulnerability. That's when the mind games stop feeling fun. That's when the detachment starts to sting. Because no matter how unbothered they act, no avoidant is built to lose the one person who saw through their defenses. See, your silence is not the absence of love, it's the presence of boundaries. It's the emotional detox that forces clarity on both sides. It's what turns your energy from familiar to foreign. And nothing haunts an avoidant more than realizing they can't access the version of you that once made them feel safe. Psychology calls this the withdrawal response. When an avoidant loses access to your emotional supply, their brain goes into survival mode. They replay old memories, recheck your socials, and quietly wonder, did they actually move on? That's when the regret begins. Not because they suddenly changed, but because your silence breaks their illusion of control. They realize you're no longer orbiting their world. You've stepped out of the pattern. You're not angry. You're not pleading. You're just gone. And that's the moment their armor, the same armor they built to keep love out, starts to crush them from the inside. Because here's the truth. Avoidants fear emotional engulfment, but silence confronts them with something worse: emotional irrelevance. They can't fight it, they can't fix it, they can't even label it, they just feel it. That gnawing emptiness, that quiet ache, that's the cost of taking your peace for granted. And you finally stop carrying the weight of their confusion. You stop over-explaining. You stop waiting for closure that was never coming. Your silence becomes the closure. The version of you that once overgave, gone. The one that tolerated mixed signals, buried. The one who believed love meant chasing, dead and reborn. Because silence isn't passive, it's a declaration, a message that says, I'm done negotiating my worth. That's the energy that breaks their armor. Not anger, not revenge, not showing them you've moved on, but becoming so peaceful they can no longer recognize you. So if you're watching this right now and you're in that quiet season, don't rush to break it. Don't try to make them notice. Let the silence do what words never could. Because somewhere in that distance, they're starting to realize you were never the problem. Their fear was. And now that your silence echoes louder than their defense mechanisms, the truth is unavoidable. You've outgrown their chaos. You've reclaimed your peace. You've become the calm they can't reach anymore. Stay there. Stay grounded. Stay gone. Because in Volume 8, Episode 14, we're exposing what really happens inside an avoidant when your silence stops being a game and starts being permanent. Enjoyed this video? Here's how to level up with Ace Wisdom. Drop a like if this hit home. It helps more people find the truth they need to hear. Subscribe if you're ready to outgrow the old version of yourself. We break down emotional patterns, psychology, and real power moves after heartbreak. If you're serious about healing, detaching, and becoming untouchable, this is your space. Turn on all notifications so you never miss when a new video drops. Want deeper insights, plus exclusive content? Join the channel membership, Spark of Wisdom, Wisdom Warrior, or step it up a notch by becoming an Ace of Aces member. The link is in the video description. Know someone who needs this message? Share this video with a friend who's stuck, confused, or ready to rise. You could be the reason they finally let go and step up. Their breaking point: silence, replacement, and regret. You're about to learn exactly how your silence rewires the dynamic and what it triggers inside the avoidant mind when they finally realize they can't reach you anymore. Let's begin. Stay focused. Key point 1: the shock of losing control. Silence hits an avoidant like a storm they never saw coming, not because they didn't expect distance, but because they thought they controlled it. Avoidants operate from one core need: control over closeness. It's not that they don't feel, it's that they fear being consumed by feeling, so they build distance like a fortress, text less, detach more, withdraw before they get too close. They think it keeps them safe, until silence turns the mirror on them. At first they frame it as finally some space. They convince themselves this is what they wanted. No drama, no pressure, no expectations. They can breathe again. But silence has a delayed fuse. It doesn't explode right away. It burns quietly, invisibly, until realization hits. That control they thought they had, gone. The power to regulate contact, gone. The ability to predict your next move, gone. Your silence strips them of the one thing that kept them emotionally stable, knowing you were still there, because control, for the avoidant, is comfort. It's their substitute for security, and when you go quiet, not for reaction but for peace, you remove their emotional compass. That's when panic starts creeping in, slow, subtle, psychological. They start rechecking your old messages, not because they miss you yet, but because they need proof that they still mattered. They'll replay old conversations, scroll your socials without liking, linger on your photos like they're scanning for clues. Are they gone for real? Have they met someone else? Did they replace me? That's when the internal war begins. The avoidant who once said they need space now can't stand the emptiness of it. The silence they want weaponized now turns against them, because silence doesn't just take away attention, it takes away predictability. And unpredictability is every avoidant's secret nightmare. They can't anticipate your next move. They can't read your tone. They can't soothe themselves with, "You'll always come back." So they spiral in private, detached on the surface, but restless underneath. Checking at 2 a.m., comparing, overanalyzing, regretting. That's the exact moment they realize you're no longer part of their emotional ecosystem. You've stepped out of the loop. And without realizing it, you've broken their illusion of control. Seneca once wrote, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior," and your silence, when rooted in self-control, not punishment, makes you that warrior. You've stopped dancing to the rhythm of their avoidance. You've stopped reacting to their distance. You've stopped negotiating your worth in half-effort connections. And in doing so, you've done the one thing that terrifies them most. You've become unpredictable, untouchable, unbothered. Because when your silence comes from inner strength, it stops being an absence they can fix and becomes a boundary they can't cross. This is the first crack in their armor, the moment they start realizing the control they thought they had was an illusion. Stay with me, because in key point 2, we're diving into the emotional backlash. What happens internally when your silence starts triggering the very abandonment wounds they swore they didn't have? Key point 2, the emotional backlash, when silence triggers their core wound. Here's what most people don't see. Avoidants don't fear you leaving. They fear the feeling that comes after you're gone. See, when your silence stretches longer than they expected, it begins touching something deeper. The exact wound they've spent their whole life avoiding. That feeling of being unwanted, unchosen, unworthy. They won't admit it. They'll mask it with logic, distraction, and pride. They'll say, "I'm fine," or "it's for the best." But their nervous system tells another story. Avoidant attachment is built on survival. As children, they learned that closeness equals danger, that love means losing control. So they built walls instead of trust, distance instead of vulnerability. But silence doesn't attack the wall. It seeps through the cracks. It reaches the child behind the armor, the one still scared to be left. At first, they'll feel a strange restlessness. No reason, no name, just tension. Music doesn't hit the same. Scrolling feels empty. Conversations drain them. Because silence doesn't just remove you, it removes the emotional stimulation they once got from your presence. You were their emotional regulator. Now they're left with their own thoughts, and those thoughts turn dark fast. What if I was the problem? Why aren't they chasing me? Did they stop caring? Or did they outgrow me? Those are questions they can't handle, because avoidants survive by believing they're safer alone. But your silence makes alone feel like punishment, not peace. And that's the emotional backlash. The point where your silence stops being about you and becomes about their identity. The quiet reminds them of every rejection, every dismissal, every time they opened up and got hurt. Now it's happening again, but this time you're not the one doing it to them. They did it to themselves. That's where regret starts to build, but not the cinematic kind, the quiet kind. The one that hits at night when there's no one to talk to and their own walls start echoing back. They'll tell themselves they're fine. They'll post something indifferent. They might even date someone new. But that emptiness won't leave, because your silence created a void they can't refill with distraction. Psychologists call this attachment deactivation failure. It's the moment their emotional numbing mechanism stops working. Their body still craves connection, but their mind has no strategy left to suppress it. And that's when the guilt creeps in. They start remembering the moments they pushed you away, the times they ignored your effort, the cold replies, the half-hearted apologies. Every memory becomes a mirror, and that mirror starts showing them the cost of their avoidance. You didn't destroy them. Their own pattern did. Your silence just held the reflection steady long enough for them to see it. And the irony, the same stillness they used to run from, is now the same stillness that exposes their truth. Your silence says, "I loved you, but I also love my peace. I cared, but I won't chase. I'm still kind, but I'm no longer available." That's the kind of energy no avoidant forgets. Because it doesn't come from ego, it comes from evolution. So if you're in that season of quiet right now, don't doubt your power. You're not being cruel. You're being clear. You're not rejecting them. You're respecting yourself. And while they're replaying what went wrong, you're finally living what's right. In key point 3, we'll go deeper into the exact moment your silence stops hurting them and starts haunting them. That's where the regret fully sets in, and where I'll reveal your secret mantra to comment for this episode. Key point 3. When silence starts to haunt them. There's a moment every avoidant dreads, the point when your silence stops feeling like peace and starts feeling like permanence. At first, they thought this was temporary. They assumed you were playing the same old game. Pull back, test them, then eventually cave. That's how it's always gone, right? But this time, something feels different. You didn't post for attention. You didn't reach out just to check in. You didn't break the silence. You became it. And that shift changes everything. Because when your silence becomes consistent, it stops being a reaction and becomes your reality. It's not you waiting. It's not you hoping. It's you accepting. And nothing shakes an avoidant more than realizing you've accepted what they ran from. That's when the haunting begins. Not the kind you can see, but the kind you feel. The quiet moments in their car, the flashbacks while scrolling old photos, the random urge to check your page even though they swore they wouldn't. Their subconscious starts whispering, "Did I lose them for good?" Because now the silence has weight. It carries the gravity of everything unspoken, the apologies they never gave, the love they never expressed, the peace they never protected. It's no longer about ego, it's about emptiness. They realize the absence of your energy isn't relief, it's regret. And that regret doesn't announce itself loudly. It arrives subtly, in insomnia, in distractions that don't work anymore, in fake smiles that fade too fast. The same quiet you were once afraid of now becomes their torment, because silence, when held long enough, turns into the loudest consequence imaginable. It says, "You had access to my heart, and you treated it like an option. Now you have access to nothing." That's when their armor collapses. The same wall that kept love out now keeps you out, and they feel the cost of it. Philosopher Lao Tzu once wrote, "Silence is a source of great strength, but for the avoidant, that strength feels like loss, because they're used to your voice being their safety net. Now it's gone, and they're forced to face their reflection without it. They start romanticizing the small things, your tone, your patience, your warmth, your care. But those memories don't comfort them. They taunt them, because now they realize you were never the one chasing, you were the one holding space. And when you withdrew that space, their entire emotional balance collapsed. That's what happens when silence becomes sacred. It stops being about who misses who and starts being about who evolved and who didn't. You didn't stay quiet to hurt them. You stayed quiet to heal yourself. You stopped talking not because you didn't care, but because explaining became pointless to someone who only listens to absence. That's the paradox of avoidant regret. They understand your value only when your energy becomes unavailable. And right here, at this exact point in their unraveling, I want you to remember something powerful. You didn't lose them. You released them. You didn't go silent to win them back. You went silent to win yourself back. Your silence isn't punishment. It's your final love letter to self-worth. So right now, in the comments, type this mantra and declare your evolution. My silence is sacred. Say it once. Say it with conviction, because the first person to comment it below will be pinned by me personally. Not because it's a competition, but because that phrase represents what this entire episode is about. Power, peace, presence. When your silence breaks an avoidance armor, you don't just get closure, you get confirmation that you've outgrown the version of yourself that tolerated confusion. And from here forward, your quiet isn't empty, it's expensive. Stay tuned, because in Key Point 4, we'll break down how to maintain that emotional detachment when they start circling back, and exactly how to respond without breaking your power. The power of staying silent. When they come back, now you see it. Silence isn't weakness, it's evolution. It's the graduation point between needing closure and becoming it. The avoidant thought they could outrun the bond. They thought distance would numb the emotion, and silence would protect them. But your stillness reversed the polarity. Now they feel the distance. Now they crave the reassurance. Now they replay what you've already healed from. That's what true transformation looks like. You didn't chase, argue, or beg. You didn't send long paragraphs trying to explain your heart. You simply mastered the hardest lesson love will ever teach you: how to let someone feel the loss of your presence. You stopped showing up where effort wasn't reciprocated. You stopped feeding a connection that was starving you. You stopped making their inconsistency your responsibility. And in doing so, you became the version of yourself they never expected to meet. The peaceful one. The one who doesn't flinch. The one who can walk away and not look back. Because silence teaches self-control, and self-control teaches power. Marcus Aurelius said it best. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You became one. Through stillness, through restraint, through clarity. So when they come back, and they will, you won't be waiting at the same emotional address. You'll be calm, focused, elevated. Not bitter, not desperate, just evolved. And that's the stage where silence stops being revenge and starts being self-respect. If this message hit home, drop a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because Volume 8, their breaking point, silence, replacement, and regret, is just getting started. Every episode in this series is designed to make you emotionally bulletproof, spiritually grounded, and untouchably calm in the face of chaos. And for those of you who commented, "My silence is sacred," remember, that isn't just a mantra, it's a declaration. A reminder that you no longer chase closure. You embody it. This is Ace Wisdom. You've just unlocked another level of detachment mastery. I'll see you in the next episode, where we break down what happens when they finally reach out again and realize the silence they feared has turned into the peace you'll never trade back. Stay silent, stay grounded, stay legendary.